David Webb is the host of the David Webb Show on SiriusXM Patriot, a columnist at The Hill and a Fox News contributor. And Richard Fowler is a radio talk show host, and he hosts the Richard Fowler Show. Gentlemen, welcome.
Good morning.
Boy, this is such a mess. And I wonder, you know, obviously her words were misstated clearly. David, you know, when you look at what's going on here, would different words or different actions have stopped what we saw yesterday?
Not likely, Martha. Look, I don't want to argue the mayor's words. That's a debate that doesn't do anything about the issue that exists.
Right.
The failure in Baltimore has been a failure of leadership in a city that is 62% black with a significant 10-year track of crime, especially in robberies, thefts, assaults, and even murders that is at a higher percentage per 100,000. These issues existed, and the real failure is that the leadership in this city, Democrat-controlled for a very long time, has not addressed the community problems rather than waiting for a crisis to say they'll address it. So while they want to talk about this issue and deal with the rioters, which, by the way, peaceful protesters are one thing, rioters are thugs, they should not, restraints should not be used on them. Restraints should be used on them. To put it in full context, They should have been arrested, they should have been rounded up, taken off the streets. But this failure is going to keep repeating itself if they don't do something, and the communal leadership and the elected leadership need to do something about this starting now.
You know, let's hear, these are the governor's words, because he expressed dissatisfaction with the way that the mayor was handling it, essentially. Here's what he said.
We declared the state of emergency, and I issued the executive order less than 30 seconds after requested by the city of Baltimore. Baltimore City was in charge. When the mayor called me, which quite frankly we were glad that she finally did, is instantly we signed the executive order. Would
better leadership and a more aggressive stance at the beginning, you know, as this funeral was letting out, have made a difference, Richard? Do you believe?
Oh, listen, I agree with David on the first part, oddly enough, but I agree with him. I think we can sit here and we could point blame and figure out what happened or what went wrong, but truth be told, right now, we got to make sure it doesn't happen again. Now, with that being said, I think what the part that baffles me is that once the National Guard order was put in place, why did it take so long for them to deploy? The National Guard is just arriving to Baltimore this morning when the city was in chaos and havoc last night. But I think moving forward, what's going to have to happen, where David is right, is there has to be some sort of conversation with the community, right? The best way to stop this, the best way to turn communities around, the best economic engine that you can ever have is jobs. So how do we create jobs in the inner city of Baltimore? Baltimore reached a tipping point last night, but that could have been any other city across our great country, because all across the country, you have a lack of jobs, you have a lack of opportunity, you have greater income inequality.
Richard, you know, they just destroyed how many jobs in those stores.
No, I agree with you. Nobody's condoning.
Pouring their hearts into those businesses in the middle of that city. This is heartbreaking for all Americans. And, you know, I don't know if this is a racial issue. You've got a lot of black leadership in Baltimore, and then you've got a lot of youth that is out in the streets causing this violence. I think this is maybe a question that needs to be addressed in terms of how we have efforted to fix these problems over the last 30 to 40 years. David, respond to that. If you
Martha, jobs is not the issue. Jobs is a facet of this larger issue. Richard is completely wrong on the jobs. So is the executive VP of the Orioles, who blamed all of this on jobs. Baltimore has a history. It has a gang problem. 3 major gangs. It has crime and drug problems. And in fact, they have not dealt with those issues. The people that are the jobs issue right now are the people that had their row house burned that can't go to work, or the people that had their businesses where they work burned out, where they cannot work. To resolve this problem, the community and the communal leaders have a responsibility. They have elected this leadership decade after decade since the 60s.
All right, I want to give Richard a chance to respond, and I'm almost out of time. So, Richard, what's your response to that?
I think, David, that this is overstated. There's nobody who's condoning these thugs and these rioters. It's awful that they did it. They should be condemned. They should be arrested. I agree 100%
well, why
there.
Why
but
not
we've got to figure out a
way.
We've got to figure out a way to turn this community around.
Yeah,
how you turn dilapidated communities around is by investing in the community, not starving it. You've got to invest in the community. You've got to rebuild the community. That is how you create economic growth. That's how you create a community. That's how you end gang
we gotta leave it
violence.
there, gentlemen.
That's
Thank
how you end drug abuse.
But what we've been doing in Baltimore has not worked, and I think we have to agree
Completely
on that
agree.
and rethink what we've been doing. Gentlemen, thank you very much. We'll see you both next time.